Welcome back to another episode of the Miami Heat Roundtable. My name is Amir. We got Trent. You can find him at the Miami Heat Network. We got Martel. He's at the Miami Heat Zone podcast. Before we get started, just want to thank everybody for supporting our channels. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels if you guys want to get more Miami Heat content and NBA content, and more specifically, trade deadline content. So we have 2 days, guys, 3 days if we count today, left before the NBA trade deadline. Jimmy Butler is still on the Miami Heat as of today. We've talked about the other big moves with De'Aaron Fox, with Luka Doncic, which was crazy. Shit, Caleb Martin got traded today before Jimmy Butler, right? So I don't know what's going to happen, but there's been conflicting reports for the past 3 weeks, right? Across where Jimmy wants to go, anywhere but Miami, anywhere but Memphis. He's down for the Warriors. He's not down for the Warriors. The Warriors are down for Jimmy. They're not. Steph is recruiting him. It's been chaotic, right? So, and there's another report that came out by Chris Haynes basically saying that Jimmy's camp is now, even though we all know he only wants to go to the Suns, he's shooting everything down, but they're saying, hey, we're open to negotiating, basically. Like, he's doing this, I think, so he doesn't get reprimanded by the NBA. So, Trent, we haven't talked to you since yesterday. Hope you're doing well. What are your thoughts on the latest from Chris Haynes and from Windhorst talking about how Jimmy only wants the Suns, but the camp is now open to other options?
I think they realized that 2 days is the trade deadline officially. And they realized that if Jimmy's not off this team, they got to deal with this whole situation pretty much the whole rest of the season and then going into the off season. So that's a lot. That's a lot to deal with. So they're just like, at this point, like, we've been demanding the Suns, demanding. But at this, like, if we can't get it done, which is they're not going to get it done, Bradley Beal is not leaving the Suns. His wife has a business out there. He said, like, I'm looking out for my family. Like, we're not going anywhere. So Jimmy's going to have to go to a Golden State. And I said this in my video before. Jimmy was supposed to be traded to Golden State, I think yesterday or the 2 days before, because when the Golden State Warriors said, when Jimmy came out and says, I don't want to sign an extension, that there was a deal done with Wiggins and some picks. Like, that's what was going to happen. But, like, Jimmy's like, I don't want to sign the extension, so they kind of backed out. But, like, Jimmy's, like, blocking all these trades, and I don't think Jimmy realizes him blocking all these trades can possibly affect him, like, at the end of the day. Like, it possibly affect him being so miserable here or whatever the case may be. So, I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting, but we talked about it off the show, off air. They're just
but Trent, what do you think about Wiggins and some picks? Because Wiggins is 29 years old. And to be honest, I wouldn't be mad at Wiggins and picks. So what do you think about Wiggins?
I'll take it 100%. I mean, listen, the offers that we were supposed to get offered, like Chris Middleton and Bobby Portis, just say if that was the case, the Memphis deal when they were going to give us Luke Kennard and like Brandon Clark, like, this is the best offer that the Miami Heat can actually get back in return.
So look, this report just came out that since Schroeder makes like $13 million, he would be thrown in that Jimmy deal. And let's just say, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but Wiggins and Schroeder and picks, that's not bad at all, man. Because then you could put Schroeder next to Hero.
We have to get the pick, at least a pick. Picks, that's kind of crazy. I don't know if we can get multiple, but if we need a minimum of one pick. And
well, Windhorst today said picks today. He said Wiggins and picks.
Yeah, well, second round pick. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 3 second round picks and you know what I mean? Like, you don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm all for it, man. I'll take a Dennis Schroeder. It sucks for Dennis Schroeder to keep getting bounce. Pause, because he got traded. He was on the Nets to the Warriors, and then say if he is involved in this Miami Heat trade, he'd be now shipped off to Miami. And he said some comments today that I don't even want to really address, but just caught me off guard. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the best offer you're gonna get for Jimmy Butler. You know what I mean? So Jimmy Butler is not a De'Aaron Fox where you're gonna get 3 first and 3 second round picks and a star player and stuff like that. So yeah, I like it, Martel.
Yeah. So Trent, what is your opinion on the Kevin Durant rumors? Not just to the Miami Heat. Touch upon that, obviously, because there's no freaking chance that's going to happen. But what about the potential of Kevin Durant possibly going back to the Warriors? The Warriors sound like they're shopping for everybody at this point. They need a star. LeBron, KD, Paul George, Jimmy. So what are your thoughts on the KD piece probably to the Warriors or even the Miami Heat? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we all know the reason why. This is getting brought up because the Suns are like, man, listen, if we can't get rid of Bale, then Durant's going to be. We might have to trade Durant
He's
and
gone.
go get younger. You know what I mean? We talked about this last episode, but like, how do I feel about it? I mean, I'm not surprised. The Warriors are desperate, right? They're desperate, but the only thing is they're only offering Wiggins, and now they're going to add Schroeder, and they're going to have to offer a pick. If that can get you some players, then cool. But they're desperate. They know Stephen Curry is at the end of his time, and I actually been watching Steph Curry play recently, and it's not the Steph Curry that I know, man. You know what I mean? He's dropping 12 points, like 15, 18. It's not like that 20-plus point scorer Curry. He's playing a little bit less. It's his age. So they know his time's coming. Draymond Green been dealing with injuries. So, you know, the Golden State Warriors have won championships, but they just want to try it one more time. So they're going to go out there and call for LeBron and call for Kevin Durant. And if the Suns like a Wiggins package to help out Devin Booker for the future, I guess, then maybe they do it. But it really depends on the Jimmy trade. Like, it just depends. Like, if Jimmy doesn't get traded, like Durant could be possibly traded during the offseason. I don't see during now. It's too quick. It's too soon. Like, the trade deadline's here. So, like, they're going to be working on that Jimmy trade till the trade deadline, probably till the deadline. So how can you work on a Durant trade? You know what I mean? At the same time. But you know what I did hear, guys, Martel and Amir? I was watching the 76ers page, and he was saying that Paul George might get shipped off to the Warriors. Jimmy might get shipped off to the Phoenix Suns, and KD might get shipped off to the Heat. And
a 14 deal, right?
Yeah, like in a 14 deal.
So hold on, but me and Amir spoke about this earlier. What about Bradley Beal, though? You see what I'm saying?
Who's going to take him in that deal?
Because I remember that trade, and I was, but I was talking to myself, and I'm like, yeah, but how are we going to make that work? Bradley Beal, because like I think it was between the 76ers, the Miami Heat, the Suns, and I think the Raptors or something like that. And like Wiggins would go to Toronto or something like that.
Would Beal then go to the Sixers, or would Jimmy want to go back and play with Beal? Because if the Suns are involved, that means they want Jimmy Butler, right? So, or is it just based on Kevin Durant and not Beal? So basically, Jimmy goes to Philly, Kevin goes to Miami, Paul George goes to the Warriors, and then all the other. There's got to be another team to facilitate. I think
if Durant's traded, Beal stays because you can't ship off that contract. Beal stays. Beal has to stay. So it's either Beal or Durant. They're not gonna trade both. They're not doing that. So it's like because they still want to stay competitive, but they know they're on like a tough contract with the new CBA. So I think Durant will be shipped off. But Heat fans, like, we're not saying Durant's getting traded to the Miami Heat, man. Listen, we got our hearts broken several times, but at this point, you never know, right? Because we never expected Luka to the Lakers. That kind of seems like the clickbaitest title in the world, but it happened, right? Did you expect Levine to the Kings or Fox to the Spurs? So at this point, you just never know. Very unlikely just with the Heat, but Durant could get traded.
What would you guys think if it was KD to the Heat for Bam and Terry Rozier? That would make the money work. So we keep Jimmy. We have Tyler, Jimmy, and KD. What are your thoughts on that? That is obviously a very delusional hypothetical that I'm bringing up. But
Bam ain't going nowhere.
What are your thoughts? The Heat Nation would freak out, right? Or people say he's a bum. People say he's bum out of bio. They've been talking shit on him.
Bam ain't going nowhere, Martel. But like,
I know, of course.
But who's untradeable though? Like, who's really untradeable? Because Luka.
No, but you lose too much. Like, people don't realize how much Bam really covers for this team. And the minute he doesn't play, we are all gonna see, or if he's traded in the future, we're gonna see how much he covers up.
Yeah. Hey, but 2 years ago when KD said Miami or Phoenix, that was the time we should have traded Bam. Because KD 2 years ago at age 34 was still cooking because he's still cooking at age 36. He's still averaging 27 points a game, shooting over 40% from three, still pretty okay on defense right now, man. He's elite. He's one of one when it comes to scoring, right? He's one of the best scorers, if not the best scorer in the NBA. So obviously I was just joking. There's no way. But who knows? I don't think Kevin Durant's coming to the Miami Heat. Like, we don't have enough to give, right? We're not going to give Tyler. We're not going to give Bam. So I don't see it happening by any chance. But what about some other candidates, perhaps? There's some guys out there that
the Miami Heat need to get me Lonzo Ball right now.
That's what I mean. There's guys rumored for a second-round pick. So would you be willing to give a second-round pick for Alonzo?
Right now.
Vucevic, the Bulls are on a fire sale. Bruce Brown is probably going to go for a second-round pick. Let's say outside of the Jimmy piece, right? Not the facilitation piece. Bruce Bowen is still on the market, right? Kuzma's still on the market, theoretically. Portis now is on the market. The Warriors are interested, right? So out of all these guys, who do you think makes the most sense for the Miami Heat? Let's think about that separately from the Jimmy piece.
We need a playmaker very bad.
Lonzo, obviously, get into that. What do you think? You're not worried about his injury history, his contract, like what we have to give him next year? What's your thoughts?
No, because he's an expiring. Okay, he's playing pretty decent for Chicago right now. He's 3-and-D, and that's what you need next to Tyler, a playmaking 3-and-D type of guy. That's exactly what you need next to Tyler, and I think he fits going forward in terms of, let's say he does pan out, he's young enough to keep around.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think though, Trent? What's your thoughts on that? He's 27, so.
I mean, I've been preaching to get Lonzo on this team. The only thing is, I'm not giving him nothing. If he gets bought and I'll bring him to Miami. But, the second round pick is cool. But at this point, man, we got to really just think about our future. And nowadays, the NBA values second round picks, I feel like, more than first. Dude, second round picks are going freaking, it's $1 million. I mean, dude, you see how many second round picks go out for these star players lately? It started with the Jay Crowder trade a couple years ago when he got 3 second-round picks, and then Nick Richards got a couple second-round picks. If you're going to get a valuable role player, you're going to have to offer second-round picks. That's just how it is nowadays. So if he's a buyout market,
if
he's a buyout market candidate, I'm fine with that, man. You know what I mean? But so I'll take Alonzo Ball. I know some people won't like this, but I'll take a Ben Simmons too. I really would.
Is he going to be a buyout candidate? He's on expiring,
probably,
right?
He's going to be a buyout for sure.
100%, dude.
I would take Ben Simmons too, because once again, if there's one team to rectify his foolishness, it's going to be the Miami Heat. And if they can tap into that, and I'm not, because it's crazy how he fell from an all-star to a bum real quick, and I just think it's all mental. Yeah, he has some injury concerns too, but he's been playing recently. But I agree with Trent. If he's a buyout, why not? Why wouldn't you add him to the young core? We're not winning a championship anyway.
His fall is insane because he's never been able to shoot, right? But he was still an all-star. The psychology of the weakness of whatever's going on with him, right? That mental block has derailed him from just being an overall good player, right? He's still a shell of what he was in terms of defense and rebounding and playmaking. He never was able to shoot. Rajon Rondo never was able to shoot. Obviously not compared to Simmons, he's a way better shooter, but you know what I mean? He was still a valuable player.
But he's afraid to shoot though. No, because he's afraid to shoot.
Yeah, now he's afraid to shoot. Before he would do layups and little post ups. He's afraid to play.
No, but we're talking about shooting. Listen, that series with the Hawks broke him. It broke him.
Not even shooting, Martel. Think about the time he didn't dunk it. Remember, he was under the hoop. He could have dunked it, but he threw it out to his teammate.
Right.
He's not even. Right. He's even afraid to score under the basket in the paint. That's insane.
Look. I just said this, right? This came out 2 minutes ago. Kevin Durant's future with the Suns could depend on whenever they trade for Jimmy Butler. So if Jimmy Butler does not get traded, Kevin Durant will be traded. Now, like I said, it's going to happen during the offseason unless they find a team that's taking Kevin Durant, which the Warriors desperately want him. So maybe he does get traded at the trade deadline. But you see what I'm saying? That just came out 2 minutes ago. So I'm telling you, Durant's going to get traded if Jimmy Butler does not go to the Suns. And it's sad because you see how one player can really just ruin your team. And it's not sad for the Suns because I don't feel bad for them. They knew what they got themselves into by trading for Bradley Beal's contract. There's a reason why it took so long for Bradley Beal to get traded, because he had a no trade clause. So he controls whatever he wants. Usually the GMs can tell you what they can throw you, whatever. No, Bradley Beal's like, no, deal with it. So that now it's like, damn, I got to kind of go back into the rebuilding stage and trade trade Durant. So, dude, this could be a crazy trade deadline if Durant gets traded, or even
if Jimmy gets traded, but not to the Suns. That could still be Durant can want to go too again because he's stuck with Beal. No one wants him, right? They're not winning. They lost to the Blazers yesterday, fully healthy, right? So they're 8th seed. Who has any faith in the Suns winning a championship this year? When I have more faith in Anthony Edwards and the T-Wolves with Julius Randle, right? After that crazy trade they did this offseason, sending out Karl Anthony Towns. I even have more faith in them. They can't get past them, let alone the freaking Thunder, let alone maybe the Grizzlies or the Rockets. And the Spurs can even leapfrog the Suns, right? What are they, 11th? You put in De'Aaron Fox for the next 30 games, whatever it is left in the season. They can build chemistry, right? They can leapfrog them too now.
Plus the Spurs, they're looking into Cam Johnson. I didn't know that the Spurs had 9 picks. That is ridiculous. So
They
they
can get
can
anybody.
easily they can get anyone.
Yes.
They're gonna put in the 2 picks to get Cam Johnson, and they're gonna have a great young core going forward. Because Cam Johnson's what, only 27 years old? So great young core, and that's
20
gonna put
million too.
pressure. Trust me, that's going to put pressure on Houston, and it's going to put pressure on a lot of. I think Houston is the dark horse team that no one is talking about with Jimmy Butler. He's been linked to the Dallas Mavericks and the Houston Rockets for a long time now, and no one's talking about it.
What? So that's the. So let's close with if Jimmy does get traded, it feels like it's not going to be the Suns because of Bradley Beal. What dark horse do you think? Martel just said his. If you want to elaborate, go ahead. But Trent also, and I'll answer too. What dark horse team will he go to? You think it doesn't have to be like a team that has not been
Well,
mentioned, but just what other team besides the Sun makes the most sense? And the
the
Warriors, not
Miami
the
Heat,
Warriors.
the Miami Heat, they're going to drag this to the deadline because once again, you're going to have other teams. You're going to be like, wow, well, everyone's getting better. Well, what are we going to do? And it's going to put pressure on that organization to make a deal to get Jimmy Butler. I still think we can get a decent package, maybe 1 first-round pick at least, and 3 expirings. It just comes down to they need to be young guys, and I think that the Rockets fit. Guys like Lonzo fit. Guys like Ben Simmons fit. So there's a lot of options for the Miami Heat. But for my dark horse, definitely the Houston Rockets.
What about you, Trent? Then we'll close.
Um, Mine's would be 76ers.
Do you
Just
think
because
that's
of,
three trade? Do you think 3-team trade, 4-team trade kind of
yeah,
thing?
I'll say 76ers just because like I think the 76ers do want to trade Paul George. And they know he's on a bad contract. And for Jimmy, you don't gotta give him the extension, even like it or not. Because at this point, like it's just coming to the end. You know what I mean? And Jimmy always wanted to play with Joel. Joel likes Jimmy, even though Joel at this point is a part-time player. This dude don't play basketball. But I mean, I can see the 76ers trying to swoop in. I mean, they traded Caleb Martin today, so they're freeing up some cap space. Um, so yeah, maybe Jimmy to the Sixers.
Why would anybody before I get my answer and close? Why would anybody want Paul George? I was talking to Martel about this earlier today. 17 points per game. He's missed 18 games already this season. He has one of the worst contracts, probably worse than Bradley Beal's technically, because yes, Bradley Beal's bad. But he's 31, right? It's mostly the no trade contact or whatever clause. But Paul George has 4 years at age 34 left for 50 million per year, 200 million. Like, why would the Warriors or any team take that on? What's your opinion on that?
When you're desperate, you do desperate things. So the Warriors are desperate. They know. I said this earlier. Curry's time's coming to an end, man. You know what I mean? I can see Curry and LeBron retiring the same year. So they got to do whatever it takes. But the thing is, they're not willing to offer Kuminga. They're only willing to offer Wiggins and stuff like that. So that's why you trade for a contract like that because you get desperate.
Yeah.
Remember, they don't have the same front office as they did before. They have a new front office.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it would contradict what Steph and Draymond both said, right? We don't want to make a trade for the sake of a trade and also something that could ruin the future. And adding Paul George, I think, is a bigger risk to ruining the future because he has. But compared to Jimmy, I'm saying because Jimmy has a player option. I'm saying like the longer term with the money and his injury history.
I think what they're saying though is like, let's not trade our young players to ruin the future because it's like you're not trading your young players for Paul George. You're just trading Wiggins and Schroeder. Probably.
Yeah. I feel you on that. I hear
you know what I mean? So like they're probably just saying, listen, I don't want to trade a Kuminga, but yeah,
or give up a bunch of picks. Obviously, like the Sixers are probably going to show some desperation because look, they're freaking 11th. They're 11th in the East. Yes, they've had like a good little streak and whatnot, but it's based off of a ton of injuries and whatnot, but it's still hilarious, right? That they're like, we might have to get off Paul George at this point, and we'd be willing to do it without the picks, right? They just want to clear up the space because they're cooked. They're done. Martel and I were talking about this earlier, I believe. They should even trade Embiid, turn this around and rebuild purely around Maxey and what's his name that got hurt, McCain. Just figure it out between them two. Like trade Embiid to the Lakers or whoever, just get him off the books, get Paul George off the books and restart. That probably make the most sense, right? The writing's on the wall. Joel Embiid, to your point, part-time player. He's played freaking 400 games out of 800 in his career. He's missed half his freaking games eligible. It's like unreal. His is worse than Paul George, right? That's way worse. But anyway, my dark horse, I brought this up. I think I had an episode with you, Trent, a couple nights ago. I think it might be. I don't know. I think it might be the Bucks. The only reason I said I don't know right now is because I see Middleton and Portis speculation out there where Middleton might go for Kuzma or something to the Wizards, so that could derail it. But I'm thinking with Dame and with Giannis, they need a third piece, right? And Jimmy, why would you want to go to the West? We talked about that in our video too, Trent, right? So like stay in the East. You have the best opportunity with the Bucks in the East. Like you're not going to go to the Knicks. You're not going to go to the Celtics. You're not going to go to the Cavs, Jimmy. The most likely in the East, I think, is the Bucks. So I'll pick that as my relative dark horse. But anyway, that's all I have for the episode. Martel, anything on your end? Any last words?
Share, comment, subscribe, and thank you for all the support.
The new big three.